Today, we will carefully analyze and get to the bottom of the true nature of the United States and Donald Trump from 4 key perspectives. These 4 aspects are: what exactly is the current situation of the United States? What is Trump's real status and situation on the political stage? Why is it said that people like Elon Musk who follow Trump are doomed to have no good outcome? Finally, what is the logic driving the puzzling behaviors of the United States and Trump? After listening to this set of incisive analyses, you will surely have an epiphany and smack your thigh, thinking, so, they're not all that remarkable after all. The current situation of the United States, a chaotic dilemma interwoven with desperation and apathy. The overall situation of the United States nowadays can be accurately summarized by the 2 words desperation and apathy. These 2 states vividly demonstrate the chaos and helpless struggle from the top to the bottom of the United States. Imagine such a scene. At a mahjong table, a gambler has been engaged in a fierce battle all through the night for 2 whole days. His eyes are bloodshot, and he is so weak that he can barely stand steadily. However, instead of having the slightest intention to leave the table, he slams the table fiercely and shouts hoarsely, "Block the door and release the dogs. No one is allowed to leave. You must play with me until the end today. The game ends only when I say so." When a fellow player next to him merely strokes his hair, he glares angrily and yells, "Are you sending signals to the opponent?" When someone lights a cigarette, he flies into a rage, "You've smoked away all my luck." Even if someone makes a little sound while drinking water, he can pound the table and curse for a long time. What's more, during the game, he constantly cheats. Just after playing a card, when the player next in turn is about to claim it, he immediately goes back on his move. "I took the wrong card. Let me change it." As a result, after changing the card, he ends up causing a point cannon, a losing move in mahjong. Yet, he has the nerve to take the card back again, saying, "I'll play this card instead." This kind of frantic behavior out of desperation after losing is a true portrayal of the United States on the international stage. It recklessly clings to the last straw, even knowing full well that it's nothing but a futile struggle. Now, let's look at the ordinary people in the United States. They have already completely fallen into a state of apathy. Remember Frank from Shameless. As long as he has marijuana to smoke and alcohol to drink, which can make him feel intoxicated, he couldn't care less about major issues related to the country's fate, such as the national debt crisis and the economic collapse. In order to have enough to eat and a place to live, he resorts to all kinds of unscrupulous means, like seducing widows and pretending to be homosexual. Today's American people are no different from Frank. They are indifferent to the future of their country and only focus on satisfying their immediate desires. What about the financial tycoons on Wall Street and the officials of the Federal Reserve? They know very well that the national debt, which amounts to a staggering $36.2 trillion, is like a super nuclear bomb that could explode at any moment. Everyone is aware that it will eventually lead to a major disaster. However, faced with this deeply troubled mess, everyone is at a loss and can only ask each other helplessly, is there a way to solve this? Who can come up with a solution? However, all they get in response is a despairing silence. Just at this critical moment, Trump jumps out and vows confidently, patting his chest, "I have a solution." But how do others view him? The rednecks at the bottom of American society curl their lips and think, if you think you can do it, then go ahead. But let's make it clear first, we need to have meat on our table every day. Meanwhile, those on Wall Street and in the Federal Reserve secretly rejoice, thinking, finally, there's someone willing to take the blame. This scene is just like Emperor Yong of the Sui dynasty sighing in front of the mirror, whose hands will my noble head eventually fall into. Nowadays, from top to bottom, the United States is filled with a despairing atmosphere of waiting for the inevitable. And Trump is nothing more than a trivial episode in this countdown to doom. 2. Trump's political predicament. The struggle of incompetence, mania, and apathy. Trump's current state can be most appropriately described by the 8 words incompetent and manic, apathetic and idle. Despite the deafening slogans he shouted during the election campaign, such as "Make America Great Again" and all those seemingly grand plans, when it came to his term in office, everything was in a mess and he was in a sorry state. During the election campaign, Trump indeed harbored some political ambitions and was eager to make great achievements on the political stage and accomplish earth-shattering feats. He assembled a think tank consisting of people like Elon Musk and Peter Navarro, who came up with a bunch of astonishing and bizarre prescriptions for the United States, rescuing the country through cryptocurrencies. Silicon Valley bigwigs like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, even with Justin Sun joining in, considered opening another virtual casino, attempting to keep the world's wealth within the United States. This idea sounds extremely crazy and, in essence, is like treating poison with even stronger poison. It's like when a person is only addicted to ordinary painkillers, they insist on replacing them with drugs like dextropropoxin or even heroin. But reality soon gave them a harsh lesson. The market value of the US stock market is as high as $60 trillion, yet the so-called National Reserve digital currencies initiated by Trump amount to only $3 trillion at most. Moreover, 80% of this amount consists of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the remaining concept currencies add up to only a few hundred billion. With such a small scale, the idea of absorbing the tens of trillions of dollars of the US stock market bubble is nothing but wishful thinking and a pipe dream. Cost cutting. The Trump-Musk 100-day reform. Trump and Musk launched the so-called Trump-Musk 100-day reform, claiming that they would completely transform the US government and achieve the goal of cost cutting. But what was the result? This plan was like a balloon inflated too much, which burst with a pop, disappearing without a trace and not even leaving a sound. Tariff wars for profit. This idea came from Peter Navarro, who hoped to fleece other countries by imposing tariffs. However, the reality was extremely harsh. The tariff wars not only failed to bring profits to the United States, but also severely harmed American businesses and consumers. There are mainly two reasons why all these prescriptions failed. First, the problems within the United States are so deeply rooted that the country is on the verge of collapse. Second, although Trump had many ideas, he was constantly hindered by various forces and was filled with helplessness that he could not express. Especially in the second case, although Trump seemed to hold great power, he actually encountered obstacles everywhere. The policies he implemented were like using a small ladle to empty a flood, swollen river, or trying to put out a raging fire with a bottle of cola, not only ineffective, but also ridiculous. What's worse, every time he introduced a policy, he would upset a large number of interest groups. These interest groups were not willing to give in easily. As soon as Trump tried to touch even a tiny bit of their benefits, they would unite against him, making him pay a heavy price. Looking back at Trump's political career, he actually had some political ambitions. During his first term, he wanted to thoroughly investigate the accounts in Afghanistan, but the result was disastrous. Two planes crashed, and two groups of people lost their lives in vain. After suffering this huge setback, he reflected on himself and believed that it was because he hadn't truly integrated into the core of US politics and lacked sufficient power. So, during his second term, he tried to strengthen his control over Congress, the White House, and the courts, thinking he could have absolute power. But reality dealt him another heavy blow. He never expected that even the Federal Reserve led by Jerome Powell, whom he himself appointed, completely ignored him. He even fantasized about pointing at Powell domineeringly, just like he did on The Apprentice, and saying, "You're fired." But in fact, the Federal Reserve remained unmoved and unshaken. It wasn't just the Federal Reserve that he couldn't control. Even Congress, the White House, and the courts, which he thought he had in his grasp, didn't follow his orders when it mattered most. Take the issue of raising taxes, for example. He shouted about it on the stage, but immediately the Customs Department claimed that the system was broken and taxes couldn't be raised, telling everyone to pick up their goods first and deal with it later. This was clearly a case of feigning compliance while actually going against his wishes. Gavin Newsom of California was even more straightforward, openly challenging him, "Not only will California not raise taxes, but we will also sue Trump." What's most puzzling is that Trump also faced obstacles in foreign policy. Normally, when the United States deals with other countries, the two parties can easily reach a consensus. Look at the tenures of Biden and Obama when it came to sanctions against other countries. As long as it wasn't a domestic issue, the two parties would pass the measures with a large majority. But for Trump, even foreign policies couldn't be implemented, and he made countless enemies. The reasons behind this are indeed worthy of in-depth consideration. In fact, after failing repeatedly at home, Trump turned his attention abroad. He immediately made bold statements, such as large-scale layoffs, a thorough investigation of the Federal Reserve and the Pentagon, closing the Department of Education, and releasing the list related to Rikers Island. Each of these proposals could make the rednecks excited. If he had actually achieved them, he would surely have become a hero in the United States. But the reality was that he achieved none of them. Trump's morale gradually declined with each setback, going through three main stages. Stage 1. The illusion of a triumphant return. When he first took office, Trump thought he was like Lin Chung overthrowing Wong Lun. He believed that with the support of various people at Mar-a-Lago, he could easily take control. He didn't realize that Lin Chung's success was due to the support of Chow Dai, and after overthrowing Wong Lun, Lin Chung didn't actually have the final say in the election. Trump was like an internet celebrity without a real backing, seemingly glorious, but actually at risk of being abandoned at any moment. At that time, people like Musk and Vance surrounded him, all hoping to achieve great success by following the new president. They came up with all kinds of radical plans to transform the United States. Trump naively thought that once he took office, he could replace the old government system with a new one at the push of a button and rule the country. Stage 2. The frustration of facing reality. When he actually started governing, Trump discovered that the old system was almost unshakable. Musk tried to reform some departments, seemingly with great determination. But as soon as they faced powerful opponents like the Pentagon and the Federal Reserve, they failed miserably. Even a simple request like checking the Federal Reserve's gold reserves was flatly rejected. At this point, Trump was like a bully in kindergarten who wanted to dominate the whole place. But every time he opened a door, there was a powerful teacher, or a tough cafeteria worker, or the principal. Every attempt ended in failure, and he finally understood that he was just a minor figure in this huge political system. Stage 3. Helpless resignation. Unable to succeed with internal reforms, Trump tried to find a breakthrough abroad and proposed the grand plans of absorbing Canada and annexing Greenland. These plans sounded very attractive. If achieved, the territory of the United States would double, and he would become the greatest president in US history. But he had two fatal flaws. First, he was all talk and no action, lacking decisiveness and ruthlessness. Look at India's annexation of Sikkim and Israel's occupation of the Golan Heights. They took immediate action and made the fait accompli. But Trump sent incompetent people to negotiate, naively expecting others to surrender voluntarily. Second, he was always an outsider. The forces of countries like Canada and Denmark had backers within the United States who could easily find ways to teach Trump a lesson. Without a strong political background like Hillary Clinton's, Trump couldn't find powerful support and thus faced obstacles everywhere. In the end, Trump had no choice but to start the tariff wars, hoping to gain benefits from abroad without angering domestic interests and perhaps win the support of the bigwigs. But the result was that he not only offended foreign partners but also angered domestic big names like Musk and Zuckerberg. Now, Trump has lost all the arrogance he had when he first took office. When facing opponents, he can only mumble, "I don't blame them. It's all Biden's fault." He doesn't even have the courage to verbally challenge his opponents anymore. In essence, for Trump, self-preservation and making money are his top priorities, while loving the United States comes only third. Just like Empress Dowager Cixi, who was willing to betray the country to maintain her power, Trump would also put the country's interests aside as long as he could keep his position and make a profit. 3. The miserable plight of Trump's inner circle. Sacrificed pawns. Let's now turn our attention to the people around Trump, especially confidants like Elon Musk, who are having a tough time these days. Trump currently finds himself in a state of confusion, looking around with a sense of helplessness. He knows full well that he can't afford to offend those with powerful backgrounds. So, what does he do? He resorts to targeting his own allies. Trump lacks a strong political backing. Before the election, he even had Benjamin Netanyahu as his godfather, hoping to gain entry into the core of US power by showing support for Israel. However, he overestimated Netanyahu's influence. Netanyahu is like the head of a village affiliated with the mafia in Sicily. While he may have connections with powerful figures, he has no real power to command them. As a result, this godfather connection turned out to be nothing more than a facade. Due to his lack of reliable support, Trump has to be extremely cautious in everything he does, afraid to cross powerful interest groups. But those who have worked closely with him, such as Musk and Vance, have become his scapegoats for shifting blame and pressure. Take Elon Musk as an example. Once, he enjoyed great prominence by Trump's side, almost on par with a powerful ally. But now, he is treated like a vulnerable rich merchant. And even Trump doesn't seem to value him. Boeing, which supported Trump far less than Musk did, received orders worth hundreds of billions of dollars for the development of the sixth-generation fighter jet under Trump's tenure. Similarly, companies like OpenAI, which showed less support for Trump compared to Musk, were awarded the $500 billion Stargate project instead of Musk's enterprises. Musk could only helplessly complain, Masayoshi-san doesn't even have $10 billion. Where would he get $500 billion for this project? Worse still, NASA significantly cut its budget by 24%, cancelling many major projects related to SpaceX, such as the Mars Sample Return Mission and the Lunar Gateway Orbital Space Station project. These were projects that Musk had poured his heart and soul into. Trump is now using his power to curry favor with established powerful forces, seizing every opportunity to funnel money their way, while mercilessly suppressing Musk. Why? Because he can't afford to offend others, and Musk seems to be an easy target. In the future, we are likely to see more such situations. When Musk competes with others for positions or projects, Trump will most probably sacrifice Musk again to please more influential parties. Moreover, in an attempt to solidify his position, Trump is trying to turn his team into a cult-like organization, promoting blind personal worship and demanding unconditional obedience from his subordinates. At the same time, he avoids confronting those who truly pose a threat to him. However, such actions will only drive a deeper wedge between him and his associates and inevitably lead his political path to a dead end. 4. The core logic behind the actions of the United States and Trump, the short-sightedness and ignorance of seeking a sword by marking the boat. Finally, let's delve into the core logic behind the actions of the United States and Trump. In a nutshell, they are acting like the foolish man in the fable who tried to find his lost sword by marking the boat short-sighted and ignorant. The United States has been living in the shadow of its past glory, like a 50-year-old man who once bullied a 10-year-old child. 20 years later, the child has grown into a strong young man, while the man has become an infirm old man, yet he still fantasizes about being able to bully the other as he did before. In 2018, Trump launched the first trade war. At that time, we chose to negotiate for the sake of the overall situation. Since then, the United States has stubbornly believed that we can't do without negotiations and that they can use this to manipulate us again. They completely failed to see that over the past 7 years, China has made rapid progress in various fields such as technology, the economy, and military affairs, while the United States has been on a downward spiral, plagued by internal contradictions, a growing debt crisis, inflation, and social division. The United States and Trump lack a historical perspective and the ability to think in terms of development. They don't understand the need to view the world from a dynamic angle. Instead, they simply copy past experiences, assuming that what worked in the past will surely succeed in the present and future. This rigid way of thinking has led them to stumble repeatedly on the international stage, yet they show no sign of changing their ways. What's even more absurd is that this short-sighted mindset is not only prevalent in the US government and Trump, but also among some people in our own country. These individuals are misled by the United States' superficial strength and fail to see its deep-seated problems. Just like the Americans, they are unable to accurately assess the current situation, let alone predict future trends. Now, let's go back to our original question. If Trump were shown that he could amass huge wealth by betraying his country, would he hesitate? Given his cognitive limitations and way of thinking, would he even realize that his so-called patriotic actions might actually be pushing the United States into the abyss? Furthermore, in the US political environment, if someone were to sell out or ruin the country, would anyone really be held accountable? Just look at the suicides of whistleblowers who revealed the truth and those who were unjustly charged due to political struggles, and you'll know the answer. My friends, we must see through the surface and understand the true nature of the United States and Trump. They are not as powerful or intimidating as they seem. As long as we maintain a clear-headed mindset and firmly follow our own path of development, moving forward step by step, no difficulties can stop us. The future belongs to those with vision, wisdom, and the drive to act. Let's wait and see who will have the last laugh